And welcome to the Weekend Update for Sunday, November 16, 2008. I'm Bryan. That's Chris. All right, Chris, let's get to some viewer feedback.
All right, Bryan. Our first one is Darren. And Darren writes, he says, guys, I hope you can help me out. I absolutely
Probably
love the
not.
show. He says, but keep the audio version going, which we're releasing these as audio. Darren.
Yeah, these are you can get all these videos in audio form, or at least most of them, on JupiterBroadcasting.com.
Yep, you can. He says, so he has a Sony laptop, and it runs Ubuntu 8.04 like a dream. He said he recently decided to make the big jump to version 8.10, and he installed it on another partition just to be safe, so he still has his old version on there. But on a new partition, yeah, good thinking. But on a new partition, he has a new version of Ubuntu. So that sounds shiny, right?
Sure does. What could possibly go wrong?
Absolutely nothing, I would think. So he says, here's the skinny. 8.10 hangs several times during boot, and if he keeps pressing return, it eventually boots fine. It doesn't remember window positions and has trouble passing MOV files to Totem. It's sounding like suspiciously issues. If I tell Firefox to open a new browser window to show an Apple HD content, it works fine. Do I need to install another plugin to do the same with Totem? And what's the deal with having to press enter 100 times at boot up?
What I would do if I were you, if you haven't already done this, is grab a fresh ISO download, burn it onto a fresh CD, and run the live CD version, not the alternate installer for Ubuntu.
Right.
Check and see how well the live CD goes. If that thing boots well, and then it gets onto your system, and you're able to work with it properly in Totem from the live CD, you know it's something messed up with your install. And honestly, if there's this many problems with the boot and you really don't know where to go, and since it is a fresh install anyway, I might just start from scratch, blow that partition away, reinstall directly from the live CD. That way, you just get around any potential problem.
It sounds like it could be partition, or file rights issues, or something like that. His question,
if you've got issues where it's hanging on load time too, it could be all sorts of things. Heck, it could even be problems with Xserve or something like that. So it's hard to know.
Yeah, the problem with when you asked if you could install plugins into Totem to get it to play back different QuickTime files and things like that, there's a bunch of different codec packs that Totem has. Like, it has the GStream Ugly and the GStreamer in Ubuntu. It has all these different versions of the GStreamer. The
good, the bad, and the ugly,
Yeah. And if you go into Synaptic and you search for GStreamer and then go find the good, the bad, and the ugly, and they're called good, bad, and ugly based on their legality issues.
So. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, grab those if you want to make sure you can play just about anything on the planet.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So okay, now we've got a listener voicemail. And I thought we'd go ahead and play it because I think the guy might have been a little confused at some of the topics we discussed. Now, it's a little long, so I got to apologize for that. But I thought, let's go ahead and play it.
Listening to Season 9, Episode 8, it's very confusing to me, Bryan and Chris, especially you, Bryan. Why in the hell are you talking about you don't have a problem with commercial applications building on top of the GPL? Well, I don't either, so long as they abide by the GPL. But, if you're talking about allowing them to integrate it with their own code, package it up, copyright, and ship it, maybe you want the BSD license.
Maybe you do.
They've already got a license.
Can you pause it?
Yeah.
Pause it. All right, so to wrap up, for those of you who did not see that episode or did not listen to that episode, what we were actually talking about was developing software in the cloud. So this was in reference to creating like a Web 2.0 style websites and the potential licensing and legality issues with making a commercial closed source Web 2.0 website that is building on top of GPL code, and that there's currently the what they call like the ASP loophole in doing that sort of thing on the server side. That's actually what we were discussing. So you go ahead and hit play.
I will resume.
And I don't understand why the crap we're going through all this trouble unless it just has something to do with us integrating Java into Linux, which is coming up.
What?
I don't know.
And what does that? I still don't understand it. Why we would want to continue to distort, pervert, and make up all forms of new licenses when we really don't even need to. The Linux community has grown because of the GPL license, and it's grown because of the term free software, not open source. Open source is something that's covered across not only Linux but BSD and other licenses.
Okay.
And, BSD was famous for getting Mac OS X off the ground. But take a look at the reciprocation on that. I mean, they have virtually nothing to show for it now.
So let's talk about that for a second.
What the heck was that?
So he says that BSD is
responsible for getting Mac OS off the ground.
Right. So there's a really common a lot of people really, I think, honestly think that it's essentially OS X is FreeBSD, where they've taken out X and they've put on Apple's
their own
window manager, and that's essentially.
But it's not. They've got their own kernel. They've got their own everything. It's just that they use a bunch of user space utilities that are from the BSD project.
Right. Yeah.
Like their terminal and all these sorts of things.
Yeah, and then with each major release of OS X, around that time they usually sync up with whatever the latest versions of the FreeBSD userland utilities are. So they pull in whatever the latest version of that at that time is of grep or of cat and things like that. But that's really about it.
But you can actually install OS X, or at least you could in the old days, without any of the FreeBSD stuff in there. With the entire, they called it the Unix subsystem or something like that. You can install it all with. You used to be able to not do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
Huh. Okay. Continue.
Years of having Mac OS X out, BSD hasn't improved one bit. So they haven't benefited anything from it, not even financially. So I don't know. It seems to me that most of the people that are Linux developers today are just looking for an angle to try to make money, and spend their full-time workday working with Linux products. And I don't.
That sounds like a good way to go.
Linux is ever going to get to a point where it's going to be totally adopted by commercial structures. It's basically a hobby OS, but it is used in commercial business. It's just that it doesn't get any money funneled to it. And I think they just keep shooting for the wind. I mean, if you want to truly integrate a commercial package on top of some open source software, which you keep advocating, open source, get the show's name changed from the Linux Action Show to the BSD Action Show and move on. Because Linux and GPL have nothing to do with essentially open source, the way you're interpreting it. It's free software, and they got a strict license to keep it that way. And it's always going to be that way, no matter how much you complain. And I don't know how many ways they think they're going to change it to, what is it, AGPL or whatever you're talking about.
Brian.
I don't get why we even need it. Why do you even need that? Why do you need it? What's the purpose of it? Unless it were to copyright something and take it away from another person. That's the only thing I can think of. You certainly don't need it with a GPL license. Thank you. Goodbye.
Well,
you're welcome. I'll see you later. So I think you need to re-listen to the segment of the episode again if you're truly feeling a little upset and confused by it, because we were only talking about running GPL code on a server side and the loophole that currently exists in order for companies like Google to not have to release their additional source code. That's all we were actually talking about, and we were actually bringing up on the show the potential issue with that. I liked that very much, Chris. So we are not the BSD Action Show, and we are the Linux Action Show, or at least there is the Linux Action. But OpenBSD, NetBSD, FreeBSD, PCBSD have improved remarkably over the last few years.
Difference of opinion.
That's not a difference of opinion, whether or not Arnold Schwarzenegger says it, and that's all there is to that. That's all I got to say.
All right, Brian. Well, I think that's just about.
Plus, that guy sounded crazy in my head because of my headphones. He was coming into the crazy right inside my brain.
I would like to talk to you about premature ejaculation.
Well, that's just inappropriate.
I think that wraps up this week's.
Is that how we're wrapping it up?
No,
what I would like to point out is that this guy is pro.
I will tell you.
Just professional all the way.
Here's how we're wrapping up this week's episode.
Goodbye.